Live from the studios of Hollywood Hotline in Burbank, California, it's Stein Online with Eliot Stein from CompuServe Interactive Radio, hosted by Broadcast.com. Hello, everybody. We have a show today that I've been looking forward to for many, many weeks. I think you are all aware of the popularity of the movie Saving Private Ryan. And for the first time, new generations, and possibly even generations that didn't know and should, found out about the commitment of people fighting the Nazis during World War II. They're seeing it in graphic detail. Joining us today on our program is a woman who was part of that fight. The French underground resistance. They kept the pressure on after being essentially invaded and taken over by the Germans, occupied by the Germans. Joining us today is Elizabeth Sevier. As a teenage girl, she was a resistance fighter. She was involved in all aspects, from everything from blowing up bridges to trying to shelter Jews. She joins us live on Stein Online on CompuServe Interactive Radio. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, sir.
Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if you have got to see Saving Private Ryan or not. Did you see the movie?
Yes, I saw it. My unit was there, so I saw it.
Yes.
And I think it was terrible.
Okay, what didn't you like about it?
I think it was too much blood.
Well,
I was crying all the time, so I couldn't see much, because I felt the way my companionship felt, because they were there.
So
they were there too.
So what you didn't like was the fact that to you it was a real...
It was reenacting everything that I had seen before.
Okay.
It was so realistic. It was just too much.
Well, they were trying to make it realistic, so people who know nothing about this war, and there's plenty of people who range from 5 years old to 50 years old that know nothing about this, they wanted to show them the kind of commitment that was made by the armed forces and people working underground. And I think it was certainly as a success in those regards.
It was.
Elizabeth Sevier joins us today on Stein Online with Eliot Stein on CompuServe Interactive Radio. Where were you on the day that the Germans came marching in to France?
In Paris.
You were right in Paris.
Yes.
There is a movie, as you know, which depicts it probably more emotionally because of a storyline than any other movie, and it's called Casablanca.
Yes, Casablanca, yeah. You
have two lovers, and at a time when they're embracing, they hear the cannons in the background, and pretty soon they hear speakerphones. Let's find out the comparison of what happened to what we've all seen in the depiction that we have from the movie. What did you hear? Did you hear gunfire in the background? Did you hear people going around on speakers saying, "We are here, you must obey us"? What happened exactly, Elizabeth?
In Paris?
Yes.
They came on June 14, 1940, exactly. Early in the morning, we heard big bang, in every street. It woke us up. So we looked through the window and we saw a sea of green German with their boots marching down the avenue. And in every street, it was not one street where the Germans were not there. There were no one out. No one. But we were at the window and we were crying. Mama was crying, I was crying, and I was so mad. Oh, I was so mad.
How old were you at the time?
How old I was? I think I was 12 years old at that time in 1940.
What were the messages that the occupiers, the Nazis, were telling the French people as they moved into the country?
Oh my God. Well, they said that they were very good German and they were not going to hurt us, that no one was going to be hurt. But that same night, when they came to Paris, we had a curfew at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we couldn't go out. And every teenager, everyone that was caught out were shot automatically. If you ever go to Paris, you will see places where there is a big plaque with the name of the age of the people that died. And it was terrible. It was just terrible. Within 48 hours, we didn't have no bread, we didn't have nothing. They came at 3 o'clock in the morning, pick up all the food, and then left us without anything. It was terrible. My mother had to get up early and then go on the line. And by the time she arrived to the line, there was no bread, so she go for something else. Because in France, at that time we didn't have those big stores, you know. There is no such a supermarket, you know, that didn't exist.
Right.
So you had to go for the deli, for the food, for the fish, for this, for that. And by the time she arrived at home, we didn't have any food. Very seldom. I ate rutabaga, potato, and in every street there were pictures. I don't know if you've seen the picture in my book, but you will see those pictures of the German with a child saying that you should trust the German because your parents abandoned you. Did you believe that? You saw that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. We are talking to Elizabeth Sevier. She was a resistance fighter during the Nazi occupation of France in the 1940s. She joins us live on Stein Online with Eliot Stein. I've been doing radio a long time. I've never had the opportunity to talk to somebody that was part of the French resistance. It's come up in topics when we've talked about World War II, but this is quite an honor today to be able to have you here live.
Thank you, sir.
Live on the program. They marched in and they were everywhere. You're setting a scenario.
Every Sunday. Mm-hmm. Every Sunday they did that.
Okay. And which particular institutions did they immediately set their people up in to take over? Did they bring their people over to working the school system? Did they bring them to the mayor's office? Where did they plant themselves in order to make sure that they had control? Did they take over the police departments first? What was the order of them integrating themselves into the occupation of France?
They integrate themselves, number one, with the police. The police were, in Paris, they were all for the German. And if they didn't, then they were killed. That was it. There were no asking. Before that, they also went to the Louvre and pick up all the things. But there was nothing left. The French had taken all the pictures, all things, everything, and put it in the family, in different homes, in France, all over, you know, mainly around Paris.
So one of the first things they did was to take the valuable artwork from the Louvre.
Yeah, but they couldn't. There were none. There were none. So the director were there. You know, they had to make that big loop, go into the stairs and check it. And you know what they did? They killed everybody. They killed 17 people that first day because they didn't want to tell them where the picture were.
Where the pictures were hidden.
Yes.
And of course, there's reverberations about this situation today, last week, last month. It's still over the news about artwork that had been confiscated and people trying to get it back. It continues to this day.
Yeah, you're right. And it will continue to be for a long, long time because you will never know where they are.
Okay, so the first thing they did, they set themselves up in controlling law enforcement, the police.
That was the first thing they did, yes, sir.
Okay, the next thing you say is they went after they were going after the cultural artifacts, the artworks and statues and things like this. Now, obviously there's a two-pronged reason to do something like this. The first thing is you're taking valuable, very valuable, worldwide, world-renowned artworks. That's number one. And the other thing is, if you take those away, you're immediately starting to destroy the fabric of the society that you're doing it to.
That's right.
By taking away their artwork and things like this. Now, what was the third thing? Where did they integrate themselves after that?
No school. We didn't have school for 1 year.
They called off school?
Yes, no school for 1 year.
Why? What were they afraid of in school? Are they afraid that...
Well, I think they wanted to teach German, I suppose. I don't know. I was very young at that time, and I was very sad that I couldn't go to school.
Do you think that they felt that schools, which tend to essentially try to teach thought as far as people trying to come up with their own ideas in life and thinking for themselves, do you think that they just felt that they didn't want any kind of environment where people might be still thinking about liberty or anything of this nature?
Well, yeah, of course, and you have to realize that French, our liberty is the most important thing in the world. You know, the revolution taught us that. But what I cannot understand is that Hitler did not like book, you know, and evidently that was one of the power. Hitler wanted all those things that he never got. Thanks goodness.
Now, they canceled schools for public schools. What about universities as well?
Yes.
All education?
All education for 1 year was completely canceled in Paris.
What about the outlying areas of Paris?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know that my grandma lived in Villeneuve, which is about 10 kilometers from Paris, and the school were closed there too. You have to realize, sir, that German took only half of France in 1940. But in 1941, they started to get worse, you know. And there is one thing they did, and you know what a militia is?
Yes.
Okay. So what they did, there is a paper that was in the street, and this young German said that we want you, French, to come in the French division for the Waffen. The Waffen is the SS. And those were French. And they were the beast. They were the worst people I ever seen in my life. It was terrible. They were going in the street every Sunday with the German right behind them, you know, and they were singing. They were singing. The French, the song that the Germans sang when they came in was Lily Marlene. And it's all they did every Sunday, Lily Marlene. And those French men that were there, they did that, and they were well paid. They were paid $100 to find any Jew or resistance or anything like that.
We are talking to Elizabeth Sevier. As a teenager, she became a resistance fighter against the Nazis after they occupied France. We're on Stein Online on CompuServe Interactive Radio. We've looked at the police, we've looked at the arts, we looked at the education. Now, can I guess the next thing that happened would be the media? Would be any kind of control over newspapers?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes, you had that. Yeah, the Figaro, and I think we had one Figaro, and I don't remember what the one was, Liberty, I think. But let me tell you something, that the young people, we resisted. Right at the beginning, we started, and it was terrible. We went right away and started to do things for the German. Like, to the German, you know, I know one night I went and pick up I slashed all the car.
All of their car tires.
In the Gestapo. I was so mad because that was when my daddy, I find out my daddy was died in 1943. And that's why I did that. And it is at that time that I started to go into the resistance. But I started with the Red Cross, you know. And I wanted to go in the Red Cross because I wanted to become a nurse. So I learned lots of things there. And the directress was very nice, and of course we had to be careful what we do or what we say, you know. And then later on, how I became in the resistance is because one man stopped me, and he said he wanted me to go check something. I went, and I thought it was such a stupid question for me to do. And so I went over there, and I counted the car, how many cars the Gestapo had. You have to realize that there were about 4 Gestapo in Paris, and they will change it. Every month they will move somewhere else. And so you have to be very careful. So that's what I did. I started that way.
Now, was it pretty much across the board as far as young people? You were a teenager. Were they all very, very disturbed that this other government walked in and occupied where you have been used to certain freedoms and certain lifestyle? Were there others who didn't care, or was it pretty much just about every teenager you met at the time wanted to do something about it?
But maybe not all of it, but some of it. Not all of it. It depended on what, how you were raised or things like that, you know, how you were raised mainly, you know. But the beginning, it was very little, and then later on, it became more, you know. But I remember one thing, after World War II, everybody was in the resistance.
Well.
But that's not true.
So
that's not true at all.
It didn't start out real strong. Why? Did they think that this was only a temporary thing?
Well, maybe. I was so young at that time, you know, I didn't realize. I think at 12 or 13, we were so disturbed by what was happening. You have to realize that at that time, we could have not been more than 2 at a time. If you had 3 groups, they will arrest you automatically.
You mean walking down the streets?
Yes.
If there's 3,
you cannot be 3 people.
Not 3 people?
2, yes.
2, yes, but 3
not
people.
3 or 4 or 5. There were no group. You could not be in a group. They will be arresting you.
See, these are little facts that I've never heard before, and we're getting it directly from a woman who was there about what life was like after the Nazis occupied France in World War II. I've never seen that in a movie or any depiction where if you had more than 2 people, they immediately would come down. What would happen if you had 3 people together walking down the street and you're having...
They will arrest you automatically.
Even if you're laughing, having a good time, and that's it?
Yeah, no. There is no such a thing as a good time at the beginning.
Right.
And then we had the ration. The ration came about a week later when they came in. We had a G1, that's from the 1 year, from a baby to 4 years old. G2, which is from 4 to 12, and G3 was 12 and over. And that was it. But let me tell you, we didn't have too much food. The cat will disappear. So we ate maybe lots of cat.
Oh my.
You know what will disappear too?
What else?
Babies. Babies?
Really?
Yes. We lost lots of babies with blonde hair. And so in 1942, when we started to see that, according to what my mama told me, is that they had invented something for the baby to wear around their body, and so they will have like a leash. And so every baby that will be English, you know, baby walking 2, 3 years old, well, they will have that leash with them. And the parents. First, I didn't know what it was, and I wouldn't feel sorry for the kids. I said, my God, Mama, they have leash on the baby. And of course, Mama never said anything. Mama was too worried about me.
Yes. We are talking to Elizabeth Sevier. We are talking about the Nazi occupation of France. We're on Stein Online with Eliot Stein on CompuServe Interactive Radio. I would assume that they also would have to find some way where they were controlling the mail system, the phone system as well.
Well, at that time, the phone, we didn't use too much the phone because my father was a doctor, and we stopped using the phone unless it was absolutely necessary, because you will always have people listening. You're right. They were listening on our conversation. So mother never used the phone unless it was an emergency, like, if I go somewhere and I'll be late, something like that.
What about the mail system? Did they essentially take control?
Well, I think they did it. Every time my daddy will write us, it will always open.
Letters are always open, yes.
They censor, yeah. They censor.
You talked before about more than two people could now walk down the street together. What about in people's homes? Could you have a group of people over to your home? Did that become illegal as well?
No, we never, no. I mean, the German didn't come that much to the house, and check if we had 2-3 people. Because, Mama, my sister, and I, we were 5 people, so they're not going to come and arrest us, Unless, I think by 1942 it got worse. By 1942 it really got worse.
Okay, well, let's do this. We're going to go to a quick break here.
Yes.
And when we come back, we'll hear about how it got worse, the occupation of France. We'll talk more with our guest, Elizabeth Sevier, about the work that she did as one of the legendary resistance fighters in France. We're on Stein Online on CompuServe Interactive Radio. Joining us live on Stein Online on CompuServe Interactive Radio is Elizabeth Sevier. She was, as a teenager, a resistance fighter in Nazi-occupied France. She told us in 1940 the first things that happened when the Nazis came in and overran the nation. But then you said it got a lot worse a year or two later. Would you tell us about that?
I think it started in 1942 when the Germans took over France, the other side of France, half of it. So all France was occupied by Germany then. All France, north, west, south.
And what kinds of different tactics or behavior did they engage in that makes you say it got worse in 1942?
Well, it got worse because in 1942 they started to take the Jews. They started to the milice that were black with boots, that worked for the German. There was a full division that was working for the German, and they started to go to the houses and pick up the German. And every time, if they caught the Jew, then they will get money for each head, or for the resistance, for that matter. That would be for everybody that was against the Germans. And that happened a lot. Many people died and many people were gone. They disappeared. We don't know where they were. At that time, in 42, the only reason I realized that is because in my next to where I live, the neighbor, they were from Poland. And they had come in, they didn't have money, they didn't have anything. And they couldn't get ration because if they go to the police, this is the way it goes in France. Even now, if you if you move from one place to another, you're supposed to go to the police and tell them that you are here and you are a citizen. But at that time, they couldn't do that, because if they do that, they would have been taken by the German and sent to the concentration camp. I mean, they disappeared just like that. One night, that's what happened. That little girl was pregnant. She was 18 years old. Her name was Denise, and her husband was Victor. And she had a baby, and I helped with the baby. There was that old doctor that came in and saved the baby and everything. And we take care of the baby off and on, And one night, the baby was about 2-3 weeks old. The German came at night, and my bedroom was just next to her kitchen. And we heard that big bang, at the door. And it was a German, and we were so scared, you know. I mean, I know I was scared. I didn't know what it was. But the next day, when I wake up, they were a big seal, wax seal, and they said, if you open the door, you will be killed, or, you know, it would be your fault. It was red, you know, with a swastika on it, you know, Hitler. And so suddenly I heard baby cry. I just couldn't believe it. I tell my mother, I said, the baby is crying. The baby here. And my mother was so scared. She didn't want me to go at the door. She didn't want me to look anywhere. So I said, listen. And well, it took her about 2-3 hours before she can hear the baby cry. So I said, we're going to go get the baby. So I told Mama, you know, we have a balcony, so it's very easy to go from one balcony, or even to open the window. It's easy because they're not like in America, you know, you just open the locker, it's all. So I told her to put me a rope around me, and I jumped to the window, and one inside. It was very easy. And I told Mama to give me a bag of potato, because the way we live in France, we were inside, you know. It was not outside, not window. It was on the other side. So there is like a square, you know, and you have people all around you, see. So you have to be very careful so that people don't see you jumping from one window to another, because they will be reported. We will be reported. So I did the best I could. I took that bag of potato. I found the baby. It was in an alcove, in a room closet, you know. And so I took up the baby and I put it in the bag of potato. Like this, if they see me, they will think I want to install potato or something like that. You know what I mean? Food. So I gave the potato to Mama. I gave the baby to Mama, and I screamed loud, you know, here's a potato, you know. So I gave it to her, and we kept the baby for 5 months, but we didn't have any money, so, because we just didn't have any more money, you know, money goes fast.
We're on Stein Online with Eliot Stein. Elizabeth Sevier joins us. She was a teenager when the Nazis took over, occupied France. Let's talk a little more about the French resistance. In finding out from you that you were a teenager, and I imagine you had friends that were involved in this as well.
Yeah, but I did not know.
Okay, you didn't know.
No.
Well, weren't they concerned that young people, 13, 14, 15, 16, that were helping out were too vulnerable, that they might leak and tell somebody, might just say, hey, guess what I did the other day? No.
We don't talk like that. Not in France. Usually when you're going to do something, you keep your mouth shut. Or somebody will tell someone and that will be gone. You'll be dead. That is very important, you know.
How many people do you think, because you're still in Paris, what are the numbers? How many people do you believe were involved in the underground resistance just in the Paris area by itself?
I don't know, maybe in my quarter we had about in the resistance. But see, they don't tell you, because if you tell that you're in the resistance, you don't know. You're not supposed to tell if you are in the resistance, because somebody may don't like you, and you can tell the German, and that's it, you're out. They kill you automatically. So
they find out you're a member of that resistance just on the spot.
Just on the spot. If you tell someone, and someone wants some money or needs some money, well, you dead. That's it. That's the way it works.
There was no trials, there was no...
because at that time we were not organized, you know. Right. There were no organized resistance. The only reason I began by doing small job, like delivering resistance newspaper and small packages, and then later began warning the Jewish the Jewish residents to leave Paris, because they had been identified by the Gestapo. So,
and you used to bicycle these around?
Yeah, always with my bicycle.
And
I had a motor. You know what a motor?
Yeah,
motor bicycle.
Yeah, we had those here. They were big about a few decades ago. Mopeds, they were called, I think.
Oh, yeah, but at that time it was not moped. It was anyway, it was a bicycle.
Right. Now, what was the pretext? What was the justification that you had for going to all these places? Did you act like you were just dropping off a book to a friend or something like that?
No. It was a newspaper. I started that in 1943. I started to deliver newspaper in small package, by the lieutenant. I found out that his name was Colonel Felix. So that was at the beginning when the resistance really took place, the resistance. And but later on, I was detected by the German and had to leave Paris without even telling my family goodbye. I went to an area near Auxerre where I formally joined Jean-Marie Maquis, which is the resistance. And I served as a nurse. I was not a nurse, but I was what you call a paramedic, at that time. And so that's what I did. I served as a nurse in the Maquis and also went on mission to destroy trains. I was captured in August 1944. I was not in the army at that time, but I was captured in 1944 near Auxerre, where I was turned over to the milice, the French militia, that worked for the German to capture resistance and for the German.
So in 44, that's when you were turned over.
Yeah, you mean I was captured?
Yes, captured.
Yeah.
Now, what did they accuse you of doing at that time?
What they accused me of?
Yes.
Blowing up the train.
Okay, how many people were involved in blowing up the train?
I think we were about 5 or 7, 6.
How do you think it was that they received information that led back to you?
Okay, how did they do that? Number one, nobody knew about those things. But you have to realize I was captured in August and I was turned over to the milice, okay? Okay, then after that, I was, the way they do that, number one, I went there because I was about one year, or about 100 feet, from I was the lookout. And the 5 or 6 people that were with me, they were trying to blow up the train. No, the railroad, not the train, the railroad, because in Auxerre, where I was, every week 2-3 trains will come and will have a Jew that will be in the train, and we will try to help the Jew to come out, from the train. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The way it goes? But you have to make very fast. So you have about 3 people on the other side and 3 people, and I was at the end of it. And then I heard, on the train, you have the Germans that are on the top of the train with their gun, right? So what you have to find a place where it's very deep, so they won't see you. And so they are already where they're supposed to be. But as soon as I saw that, I went back in the wood, but it was too late. They already had called the German, and it was dog that came in, and that's when they took us, and they put us on our knee. They took the rope and put our back, tie our hand back, and they killed everybody. But I thought I was dead.
Well, yes, if they were killing everybody.
But they didn't kill me.
Why?
They didn't kill me. I don't know. Don't ask me. It's something that I'm still thinking. But I believe they knew I was a nurse because I had my nursing outfit, even though it was khaki, And the German came in and said, "We don't kill baby," because they know I was a woman. So they took me. But all my friends died. You don't know how I felt. It is unbelievable for me to tell you how I felt. I felt guilty. I felt guilty like hell.
How old were the other the other
They
6
were
people?
young. They were young like me. We were just very young people, from 15 to 20, 21.
15 to 20, 21, and they just executed them on the spot.
Charles was the oldest one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a little bit older because he was the leader, but he was a wonderful man. And when I was captured, of course, they tortured me. What the Germans do usually, they don't give it to the Gestapo right away. They take it to the militia. So the militia really tortured me for 3 days.
And what did that consist of, Elizabeth?
Rape. Lost
And,
my kidney.
mhm.
And for 3 days, I didn't know who I was. And 3 days later, I didn't talk. So they took me to the Gestapo. And they tortured me a little bit more for 3 days. They tried to remove my fingernail with the thumb screw. Then it's hard for me to go back to that. And they beat me up so much. They make me talk, but I didn't talk. Number one, I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know anything because none of us knew anything. We don't talk. If you talk, they kill you no matter what. And I was not about to say anything because I didn't know. I just said I was a nurse. That was it. But I don't know. You know, they tried to make me talk. I had how you call it? You know, the electric shock. They gave me lots of electric shock. They burned my leg. Only thing I can say, the reason I'm alive today was the fact that the Allied army liberated the town where I was held, which caused the Germans to leave me in jail when they fled. So you see, they are what you call them, those people? You call the bad name, right? I don't want to say the bad name, but you see what I mean? They were chicken. That's what I would say. Cows, whatever you call it.
The first liberators you saw, were they Americans? Were they Russian? Who were they?
No, they were not Russian. They were American.
Americans, okay.
They were American and also English. We fought after I joined the French army, and I was with the American 3rd Army Armored Division under General Patton. That's where we fought the Battle of Bulge and the Battle of Colmar and God knows where.
We're talking to Elizabeth Sevier. She was a resistance fighter during the Nazi occupation of France. What did teenagers, just by their nature, have a great deal of energy, like to be with friends, like to do things that adults aren't doing?
I didn't do all that, sir.
Well, yes, I know, and that's what I'm getting at. What happened to the teenagers of the town or in Paris when the occupation came? Did they tell them they had to stay in? Did they allow them still to have dances? Did they allow them to get together for whatever? Or did they completely eliminate any kind of social interaction among teenagers?
I think at the beginning they didn't do that.
Okay.
After 1942, you had to be in by 11 o'clock.
By 11.
Yes, except for me that I was in the Red Cross. So, you know, I had a band, and I can go anywhere I want to. That's the reason I went into the Red Cross. I went into the Red Cross because that gave me some freedom.
Yes.
To do whatever I wanted.
How did you know that you were in the presence of another member of the French resistance? Were there any words, any special code words? Was there any kind of special rings? Was there some kind of hand signals? How did you know if somebody else was a member?
No, that was against the law. No, you couldn't tell who you were. You couldn't tell. Anyway, my name was changed when I was there, and that was it. The only time I find out who, you know, when I started the resistance, we had the name, but it was not our true name. Our name was changed quite a bit. It was changed every time. Our ID card was changed. Like when I went to when I was in jail, I ate my paper. my identification card. I hate it.
Well, that certainly is a clever way of getting rid of it. And
well, I had to.
Yes, of course.
They wanted to know my ID card and the number and all that, and we changed it. We change it too often, sir.
Well, even with all the changes, how could you make sure that somebody you were working with was trustworthy?
Well, this is exactly what happened when I was captured. That we had someone that gave our name at that time. Not my name, but that what we were doing. It was someone that did it. Otherwise, it would have not been impossible to know where we were and what we were doing. It was someone that did it, and we don't know who did it. To this day, we still don't know. He's dead. Who knows?
Has there ever been, and I hate to use the word reunion here because it's not a high school party reunion, but has there ever been any kind of gathering of the members of the French Resistance? Do they ever?
Yes,
there is. Okay.
Yes. When I came back from Vietnam, I'm sorry, I was in Vietnam too. But when I came back from the war, I was wounded, and when I was in Colmar, I had strap, and my best friend died. I lost 3 friends already by then, and I went to the hospital, and I finished the army. I got out of the army because I want to go back to nursing and get my degree, my high school diploma, which I did not have it. And so I went there, and like I was sick, so I called. They were going to cut my leg, and I wrote a letter to General de Gaulle, and I asked him if he could give me some penicillin, because the penicillin was only for the American, it was only for the hospital, American hospital. And within 48 hours, he sent me the penicillin, came to see me, and he made sure that they were not going to cut my leg. And then after that, he put me in the American hospital, where I will go every day almost for rehabilitation, for physical therapy. It took me 3 years to get better. But in these 3 years, I worked for my high school diploma, I worked for my nursing degree, and he was, not many people like de Gaulle, but to me he's my hero. My hero.
Well, some people like him. I
know, I love him very much for what he did.
Yes, would you talk about what happened to your family as a result of you being arrested? Did they come and try to round them up, or did they harass them or try to intimidate them? And did they survive the war?
Well, my father died,
Yes.
And but my mother did not know anything about me.
Okay.
But when I left, I understand that Mama said that the German came several times asking questions.
Okay, they did. They came trying to find out.
But she couldn't speak French anyway. So I don't think she had any hard time. She didn't know anything about me. And every time somebody will ask her something, she will cry. My sister had a TB. My older sister had a TB. My oldest and my brother was sick. He was sent to Marseille, where he could finish his study. He was sick, but he was better. TB was pretty bad at that time, sir.
Yes, tuberculosis was. Yes.
Was very bad, and I almost got tuberculosis. I have the tuberculosis, but I never been sick. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But my sister almost died. My older sister died.
We're going to go to another break. We're talking to Elizabeth Sevier. She was a resistance fighter during the Nazi occupation of France.